there's some problems here. There's still some good talent, no question, but there's also some issues. And you take a look, first of all, at the fact that this is Baker Mayfield's team for a year at least. We'll see how that goes. Good luck to him. Hopefully it works out. But that's still going to be a position that they could clearly use to add at any point.
Yeah.
First round even.
Oh, yeah. So, absolutely. Great. I'll tell you what, this is one of the locations I like Hendon Hooker for. I think there is a more than 50% chance Hooker is going to go somewhere in the 20s. Or I should say the back third of the first round.
Okay.
Tampa Bay is going to be one of those teams because he's not a factor next year. He's not going to come in and take snaps away. So you don't want to draft him and rely on him in 2023. It's just not a good decision. So you don't have to with Baker Mayfield. And I even think you want to see Trask play a little bit of football. Yeah. I'm not confident.
Leave him as a number 2. Yep.
You get him a few starts this year and just see how he responds. But that the quarterback is definitely a strong lead on this team. But I'm going to start off with the offensive line. I mean, they were decimated by injuries last year. They lost both starting guards, one to retirement, one to free agency last year. And then at the start of before week 1, they lose their starting center, and then they lose their top interior backup. And then throughout the year, this offseason, they trade away Shaq Mason to Houston. They cut Donovan Smith, their starting left tackle, because he just was not paying back the dividends. So, you're left with almost nothing other than probably the best right tackle in football. And I'll tell you what, I think it's a mistake for you to put him on the left side. And it's not because I don't think he can do it. He was my number 1 tackle when they came out. That was the year with Jedrick Wills and Andrew Thomas. I thought Wirfs was the best one. But I think you keep him at right tackle and just know that question is solved. If you put him on the left side, you're creating a question there. You don't know if he can do it. I'm sure he could. But now you also have a question on the left side, and now you have a question on the right side, in addition to the mess that they call their interior offensive line. And this is one thing that people that don't know Tom Brady's game very well, he's very good, not at avoiding pressure, but not getting sacked. He had that sixth sense. That's part of what made him special. Baker Mayfield does not have that. This offensive line was really bad, and that did affect Tom Brady last year. But a normal quarterback, a normal brain, it would have affected them a lot more. So I think offensive line is need number 1 and need number 2 for this team.
I could see offensive line being, 1, 2, maybe even 3.
Yeah,
it's that bad.
Yeah,
I
mean, what do they get? What do they think about Luke Godke from Central Michigan?
They better look. He was a 2nd-round draft pick, so they better get it right. So that's the hope, is that they got 3 guys. That's the hope.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
best case scenario. That means you definitely need left tackle and right guard.
Yeah.
Or left guard too. I mean, it all depends on either or. But fact is, yes, no question. But you know what? The left tackle position, though, and I don't know how it is this year in free agency, it always seems like there's several 35-year-old guys out there that are still available after the draft that get signed to 1-year deals. And so you don't know which. Now, usually they go to teams, though, that are playoff content. Yeah. So I just, Tampa Bay is not that. But we'll see what they think about themselves. So, and where are they picking, Tampa?
They are in the 20s somewhere.
So
I have the order.
Who would be who could?
Sorry, they're 19. Sorry, my fault.
So could they pick a left tackle and start him?
Yeah, I mean, start him would be probably a coin flip.
Who could that be?
I think Paris Johnson from Ohio State is possible. I personally love Matthew Bergeron from Syracuse. He's one of the top 25 players on my board. I'm very confident he'll be there. But I think Skoronski's gone. I think Broderick Jones is gone. And Paris Johnson up in the air. Those are the 3 starting left tackles. Anton Harrison would be one of those risky, hey, I don't think he's going to be ready right away, but I think he can do it. Some really like Darnell Wright. I don't know if he can play left tackle, though. I think Darnell Wright and DeJuan Jones are both right tackles. So, again, this brings up the discussion. Do you just shift Wirfs over and bring in a Darnell Wright, DeJuan Jones, right, who can – I had them graded as second-rounders, both those guys, and, a little bit of a reach there. But, again, this is what I talked about when we started this show. If you go into the draft shopping hungry, you're going to have to make some decisions like that.
All right. Elsewhere, Fournette is still a free agent, so I don't really see at this point in their history why Tampa would go back to him, to tell you the truth. Just let Rashad White be the guy. You have Edmonds there. He's a solid number 2. I think you should be done there at running back this offseason. You have 3 excellent receivers. The problem is you got nothing after that. Nothing. So you got some major issues behind the top 3. And then and you're fine at tight end because Otten's going to get even better. And they used up a 2nd-round pick on what was it? Is that the kid from Minnesota?
Yes,
Keft. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Keft. Yeah, he's a blocker. He's a blocking.
So you're set there.
Yeah, you're set there. Your top 2 are set there.
And then on defense, though, this is where you got some other issues. You have a major hole at nickelback. That's apparent.
That's the biggest hole.
Yeah, you definitely need some more cornerback depth. And at safety, now what did they just sign Ryan Neal?
They just signed him, and that's a great signing. That really fills in. They lost Mike Edwards to Kansas City, and when I wrote up my needs, that won't be in the guide. My number 1 need was on the defensive side was defensive back, and it was the need right after offensive line. I still think there's a need there, and I'll get to that.
You need a nickel, yes.
You need a nickel. Yeah, you touched on it.
And you do need another. I don't know. Maybe McCollum could be a guy, but if one of those guys gets hurt, you're in big trouble. You need another corner.
Yeah. McCollum, I still think they're trying to figure out. They moved him around a little bit. He was outside. He was at safety. He was at nickel. And that was the book on him coming out of Sam Houston State. You didn't really know. You love the athleticism. You love the package, but you didn't really know where he fits. There's a lot of guys like that in this draft too. But again, day 3 pick that hasn't really shown you much. Are you really going to make any draft decisions based on that? Absolutely not. So the depth at safety is not there. And with Antoine Winfield Jr., right, he played a lot of nickel last year, and he does it at a high level. But for you to get the most out of him, the reason you draft him is you want him as a guy that can move around. You don't want to lock him.
You want him to be a ball hawk in that secondary.
Yes. Yeah. Right. And he has the skill set. He's one of the rare skill sets that can play nickel, free safety, strong safety. So nickel to me is probably the biggest need on that defensive side of the ball. And if they hit a home run there, or just even hit a double, this defense can do some damage. They still have a lot of top tier talent. Yes. They have one of the best nose tackles in the game. Probably one of the best linebacker duos in the game. If Shaquille Barrett can come back and get some of his form back, I mean, it's a potentially a very dangerous defense that could keep them in it.
The problem though is they got terrible depth.
Yeah, no depth, and I mean, a lot of teams have that issue, and you don't want to knock them too much for it. I do think they have enough depth up front. They brought back Sanat to play nose tackle. They have Anthony Nelson coming back on the outside.
But they could probably use, don't you think they could probably use another edge rusher at some point in the draft?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to the 2021 first-round pick, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. I mean, they're still waiting on him to realize that potential.
Well, they better hope he's the guy, yeah.
Yeah, and if he doesn't, then, I would say that's probably a need that they need to address at some point.